Hi, my name is Stephanie Forsberg. I am in grade 11. My language and literature teacher is Mr. Dell. I will be speaking about a poem written by John Donne in the 17th century. It is called No Man is an Island. I'm speaking on the poetic devices used in this poem, such as allusion, syntax, archaic language, simile, metaphor, and as well as tone and mood, structure, and content of this poem. So to start, about what the poem is about, the content. No Man is an Island is a short poem which connects the human beings and stating them as one. In the poem, the poet speaks about humanity, stating that a human being, when isolated from others, do not thrive. A human being living alone is like a person living in an isolated island. In order to be an island, a man would have to cut off and isolate from the rest of mankind. Man is born to live with others in his life. He cannot grow in isolation. Man is a social animal. We do not see it. What happens to one person happens to everyone. Each person's existence affects this existence of another person. Like when a person is angry, his anger affects his relation with others. Thus, an existence of a person not only affects himself, but it also affects those living with him. There is no such thing as a wholly isolated individual. Only death can isolate a person from another, but even in case of death, the person is remembered by his loved ones, and thus remain alive in their hearts. Essentially, the poem is speaking about how no one is self-sufficient. Everyone relies on each other. So the tone and mood of this poem is when John speaks in a morbid and upsetting, as the context of the poem is heavy, as he's speaking on behalf of the human race, in a particular man in general. However, it may not be as morbid as it seems. John Donne speaks about how mankind are, but does not express sadness, as he is in a candid way. Most importantly, in the poem, as there's only a short poem, has multiple different language techniques. One language technique that is used is extended metaphor. Extended metaphor refers to a comparison between two unlike things that continues through a series of sentences in a paragraph, or, in the case of this, lines in a poem. It is often comprised of more than one sentence and sometimes consists of a full paragraph, or in a full stanza. An example of this extended metaphor are lines 1 to 4, when they compare a man to a piece of a continent. The lines are, no man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. This is effective in the message that John Donne is trying to convey, as he is saying that no man can be alone, and is using an island, those of which are where people are stranded to stay, and no one can survive alone. Also saying a man is a piece of the continent shows how important men are to society, not just men, but humankind, and mankind and how they're meant to be in the world, interacting with other people and not on their own. Secondly, like another language technique that is used is a simile. A simile is a figure of speech involving the comparison of one thing with another thing of a different kind. This is used to make a description more empathetic or vivid. An example of a simile are lines 5 to 9, comparing a cloud being washed away by the sea to an individual's loss of life. Cloud suggests a thick, dense lump. In this context, it means a piece of the earth, a clump of soil. Manor, meaning farm or loss of farm, and promontory means a rounded hill, summit, mountain, bare of trees, as these two words are used in the 5th to 9th line. Quoting the poem from line 5 to 9, "If a cloud be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less, as well as if a promontory were, as well as if a manor of thy friends, or of thine own were." This was used by John Donne to show and talk about how the loss of a person is also a loss of the world, as comparing the farms, the hills, and the mountains in Europe would be less if a man was to isolate himself or die. A third language technique that is used, and these are all used together in the same line, is syntax, subjunctive verb, and archaic language, which is used throughout the poem. As archaic language are things such as clod and promontory and manor that were defined before. So the one general thing of syntax is the general word order of English sentence is subject plus verb plus object. In poetry, however, the word order may be shifted to achieve certain artistic effects, such as producing rhyme or melody in the lines, achieving emphasis, heightening connection between two words. In this case, since the structure has no rhyme, it was used to have those artistic effects and to have the melody in the lines. The unique syntax used in the poetry makes it different from prose. An example of this is in the 5th line where he says, "If a clod be washed away by the sea." Be is syntax that is used to show the flow of the poem, as there's no specific rhyme structure. However, the structure of the poem is 13 lines. Allusion is the 4th language technique that is used. It is a brief and indirect reference to a person, place, thing, or idea of historic, cultural, literal, or political significance. It does not describe in detail the person or thing to which it refers to. An example of allusion occurs in lines 12 to 13. Before radios, newspapers, and TVs, major town events were announced by the tolling of the bells in the 17th century. The bell tolling to which John Donne is referring to in the poem would be funeral bells. The tolling bell is also a metaphor for someone dying. The last two lines, line 12 and 13, of which the metaphor and the allusion is referring to, are the and therefore never send to know for whom the bells toll, it tolls for thee. What this means is that it does not matter who dies. Everyone will eventually die. This shows a very pessimistic look on the world and on death, but not in a morbid sense. He speaks in a casual tone on a heavy topic, making it more relaxed than it is. He is somewhat hopeful, as his message about how no man can be alone is a positive and truthful influence on humanity, but he can also express how codependent people are on each other, as we cannot live without each other. And in conclusion, the writer John Donne makes a big judgment displaying his point of view on the world and the existence of the human race, the relationship and codependency of which humankind uses to function. He, in conclusion, uses allusion, syntax, archaic language, extended metaphors, and similes. He uses these effectively as the world and mankind have a linking relationship. In this stage of his life, John Donne was not going through the religious transition, at the time of this poem. And that is all for my oral commentary. Thank you for listening.